Yo man, check out this oxygen tank. This is some primo shit.
Oh, hell yeah.
Blue Kush all the way from India. Been saving this one for a special occasion.
Let me get a hit of that O2. Oh yeah, man, that's the stuff. I haven't had gin like that since pre-photocataclysm. Right?
What the?
This is the police. We have intel on unlicensed oxygen possession. Open up.
Shit, man, it's the cops. Hide the tanks.
I'll put them under my shirt.
Shit.
Oh, God.
Give me your finger. We're testing your blood oxygen levels.
How in my finger?
Looks like you've been doing above the legal oxygen limit. You think oxygen still grows on trees? You're gonna be behind bars for a long time. You talk.
Dramatic musical intro.
Ow.
The world is a weird place.
But what if it was even weirder?
Join us, the Wonder Women, as we explore the serious answers to your wackiest questions.
Questions like, what if the ocean wasn't salty?
What if clouds were ice cubes?
And what if farts were a harvestable energy source?
Each week, we'll wonder what if,
And in the process, we'll find out what really is.
Hi everyone,
Welcome to the Wonder Women.
I'm ChloroPhyllip,
And I'm Algal Lavigne.
and today our wonder is, what if we didn't have photosynthesis? Okay, what'd you think of this one, Algal? Can I call you Algal?
Yes, you can. If I can call you chlorophyll.
You certainly may. All right.
Well, my first thought was about not having oxygen. And I thought, I can crack the case. There's got to be something else that either makes oxygen or another way to breathe without photosynthesis. And really, there's nothing else that can quite do what photosynthesis can do.
Yeah.
So what went from being like a kind of exciting topic kind of spiraled me into a panic about how fragile our lives are.
Yeah, my first thoughts were more like, ugh, because science is hard. But I did gain a great appreciation for plants and felt like it was warranted to hug some trees. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I also
just
found
had a lot of
myself
plant leaves.
trying to research really obvious things like what defines a plant? Or like, why do
yeah.
I breathe oxygen?
Do I need oxygen to survive?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of overthinking on this one, but let's jump into it and
Yeah.
overthink it together.
Okay, so quickly for the poor science education in the U.S., what is photosynthesis?
What is photosynthesis? I know things like Krebs cycle
know
and
things.
Calvin. I actually learned
Calvin?
photosynthesis in German. I was in Germany for my exchange year when we dove deeply into
Oh,
photosynthesis.
how do you say photosynthesis in German?
photosynthese,
Photosynthesis.
I think.
Cool.
So yeah, but also anyway, yeah, never mind. So yeah, I learned a lot about photosynthesis. I relearned a lot.
Okay, well, it's basically just turning sunlight into food. It's super complicated, but let's leave it at that. It requires a
Oh my
few
god!
ingredients.
Oh my
It
god!
requires sunlight, it requires carbon dioxide, and it requires water. And then that makes sugar for the plants to eat and also produces oxygen as a byproduct and water.
So I have a question,
Okay.
which is kind of a sciencey question. So is photosynthesis just the process by which plants turn sunlight into oxygen, or is it the only means by which plants create oxygen? Like if you had a different energy source, could you produce oxygen, or does it have to be the sunlight?
I think it has to be the sunlight because it's
Okay.
with the chlorophyll and the chloroplasm.
Okay.
I'm going to say any more science words.
Moving right along.
I think you need the green thing.
Chlorophyll, that's me.
Yeah, basically, it's like how plants breathe backwards from us and how they pee. That's how I remember
Backwards
it.
breathing. That's a good way to remember it. I was curious as to how long photosynthesis has been around on our planet and kind of the evolutionary history of it. And So what I found out is that plants are about 500 million years old is when we kind of can identify the first plants and
That's
plant
pretty
life.
old.
Yeah, but I also saw that there's some evidence to suggest that some organisms were photosynthetic almost 3 to 3.5 billion years ago. So it's been around a really long time, and it's
That's
been
old.
a critically important factor in our planetary
That's older
evolution.
than your
Yeah.
mama.
Oh, burn. It's much older than my mom. So do all plants photosynthesize, I think is a good question.
Yeah, the thing is no, but pretty much all of them do. And so yeah, like you said, it's not just plants, but there's also some bacteria, the algae, which
Yeah.
includes seaweed,
Some
they're all
phytoplankton.
green. Yep. They all use photosynthesis. All plants started out photosynthesizing. There are a couple that don't use it entirely. So for example, mistletoe is one that does
Oh.
photosynthesize some, but it's a parasite, so it latches onto a tree and it actually gets a lot of its nutrients and water from the tree itself. But there's one called ghost plant or Indian pipe. Have you ever seen these?
Oh, yeah. I
They're-
saw a picture, I think.
Yeah, they're cool. They're white, so they actually don't photosynthesize at all. They grow on the forest floor and they tap into the fungi network
Yeah.
instead. But so that shows it's like evolutionarily they needed photosynthesis to start as plants, and then some
Kinda
plants decided
Went
that,
rogue.
yeah, went
Just
rogue.
did their own thing. Decided they wanted to eat other plants. Cannibal plants.
Yeah,
Mushrooms also don't photosynthesize. Is that right? But they're
Yeah.
not technically plants,
they're
are
not
they?
plants
They're
at
kind of like
all.
a fungi.
They're their own.
They have their mycelial networks, and
They're
they do
their own
cool ass
thing.
mushroom things.
Yeah.
Mushrooms are cool.
Yeah, so that kind of, when I first heard this thing, I was like, we'd be fine. We'd have Venus flytraps. We'd
Yeah.
have mushrooms
Yeah.
taking over. But mushrooms aren't plants. Derf. Carnivorous plants and parasitic plants, for the most part, still need photosynthesis.
Because they still feed on plants that photosynthesize.
Yeah, so it's not actually like as easy to solve as I thought.
Yes.
There's some bacteria, some ancient bacteria, that carry out photosynthesis in a different way. Loud booming noise. They use hydrogen sulfide instead of water, and that's why some, like if you go to a mud flat, they smell like rotten eggs.
Oh, these
yeah.
are bacteria.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it doesn't really help it's the same pathway as photosynthesis, but without the carbon dioxide
Okay.
to oxygen. Yeah. So I don't know.
Well, and then there's also, this came up a lot, is there's also the bacteria and certain plant life that feed on like the sulfur vents. So it's not to say that sunlight is the only source of energy on planet Earth, but the other sources of energy for creatures to not use photosynthesis is deep down in the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, where there are things like blind crabs and really large worms.
Those creepy worms that live in like those like shell things.
Yeah.
They're like tubes, like tube worms. I don't know. They're really cool. Yeah. Totally wild.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So, all right. So plants came on the scene 500 million years ago is what people think. There's some photosynthesis that happened maybe in some prokaryotes. It's a word I read, but I don't fully know what it means. 3 to 3.5 billion years ago. So what did the Earth look like before all of this happened?
Ooh, well, that's when I got really creeped out, because why didn't I think about that? Like in school, I studied biology and I learned about plants, but I didn't really think about what was the world like before plants. So we're the only known planet with atmospheric oxygen, and we didn't always have that. It wasn't until things started photosynthesizing. Before then, things were hot, and there were all these other gross gases in the atmosphere, and it just sounds like more volatile time.
Yeah, like a more volatile time. Life was rough for those early bacteria. The prokaryotes and the eukaryotes, they really had it hard. Well, there was a lot more carbon dioxide, right? I mean, that's a
Yeah.
big thing in terms of what plants have done. People link the oxygenization of our atmosphere to the rise of plants. So obviously that was a huge part of why we're such an oxygenated atmosphere. And one thing I read is because plants came on the scene and started converting all the carbon dioxide, that really lowered the carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere over the next like 35 million years and caused an ice age. So our topography was probably a lot different before plants came around because Ice Ages changed the planet, gave us mountains and valleys and all that stuff and snow. Yay! Thank you, plants. So, climate-wise, also it was a lot hotter and a lot different just because.
What are you saying that
plants.
CO2 is a greenhouse
Oh
gas?
my God! You heard it here first, folks.
Whoa!
Climate change is real.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And I also read, this was kind of cool, when the plants and bacteria were photosynthesizing, the oxygen they were putting into the atmosphere, because O2, atmospheric molecular oxygen, is not very stable. Like, it likes to react with a lot of things.
Oh.
So for a while, there was a period of great rusting where all of these metals that were on the Earth's surface had to react with the oxygen and rust until they're, kind of maxed out those reactions that could happen, that oxygen could start accumulating more in the atmosphere.
Oh.
Weird, right?
So does that mean our planet was really red? Like Mars?
I don't know.
For a while? I mean, nobody's going to tell us otherwise.
Yeah, Patanjali.
Nobody was there to see it. So. Sure, we can say whatever we want.
Yeah. What would we do without photosynthesis?
Let's take a break.
Okay.
Photosynthesis is out of here! Get super hot discounts through July at the World Food Program World's End Blowout event. Blowout! Up to 60% off on all food products. Blowout! This is the largest consumer food total liquidation. A sale of doomsday proportions. Blowout! With discounts on everything, including grain, dried meats, canned vegetables, and more, while global food supplies last. Blowout! Don't miss it. The world is going out of business. Stock up to extend your life a little bit longer. Come down to the WFP Blowout event. Did we say blowout? Blowout!
So obviously photosynthesis, like you said, it converts sunlight to oxygen. Super important. I'm totally losing it. I thought I had a plan. I didn't have a plan. This
Cutting that.
Bad.
Cut.
It worked in my head and then it didn't work. You do it.
All right. So what would we do without photosynthesis? This led me to thinking, what is a plant? Because would plants have evolved? All right.
Wait.
Which seems like a simple question, but really, what is a plant? So plants are multicellular organisms in the kingdom Plantae that use photosynthesis to make their food. So if we didn't have photosynthesis, we can't have plants. There's also the kingdom fungi, the kingdom animalia. Fungi are more like animals, so those aren't going to make oxygen either.
Right.
So basically, life would not exist as we know it.
Yes. Yeah, we wouldn't have oxygen. Our planet would be super hot.
Yeah, our
But
planet would be super
our
hot.
question here is to explore what could be if we didn't have photosynthesis. So
Exactly.
let's get our imaginations churning. Let's spitball some ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe I did some reading that nitrogen or sulfur can work similarly to how oxygen does in our own metabolic pathways, but less efficiently.
Okay.
So maybe animals would have evolved that don't need oxygen, but they use other things. They're maybe just slower, hungrier, not highly functioning things. Maybe we'd just be like goopy
me
blobs.
in the morning.
We'd smell like rotten eggs
Ooh.
and ammonia.
Yeah, this all sounds very
just
familiar.
like you. Yeah. Or maybe we could have, bacteria were still around.
Yeah.
So maybe they would have just taken off. Maybe they could have formed their own giant sentient beings.
Yeah, I think that's really, for me, it's like, where would the evolutionary tract have gone? It would have been, bacteria would have been kind of where it starts, because eukaryotic cells, and which led to kind of plant and animal life, really needed that photosynthesis to be able to go and survive. But bacteria don't. They can just survive off of any old thing. So I just wonder what a more complex bacterial system would look like, or the evolution of bacteria.
Yeah.
Conversely, maybe, coming back to this whole idea of the thing about photosynthesis, the crux is turning sunlight into energy. But if plants were able to get energy from some other source, would they still be able to do some sort of chemically similar process where they were able to absorb CO2, because they can absorb it from like the ground, from like through their roots, and it's really just the energy that they need to do it. So maybe plants would have evolved to and kind of step to eat bacteria, and we would have quote unquote plants that weren't green, that didn't have leaves and stems, that were basically like these root kind of structure things that just ate bacteria and got their energy from the bacteria.
Maybe would that just be more like a fungus then?
Maybe, yeah. Yeah. So maybe it would have just been more kind of carnivorous, fungal, more complex cells.
Yeah, maybe
rather
we'd have
than
mushrooms the size of trees.
Oh
popping
my
up everywhere.
God. And they'd be sentient. Imagine a sentient mushroom.
That would be cool.
Yeah. Creepy.
Yeah, and creepy and gross. And
Yeah.
when they let their spores go. Or maybe plants could like catch on fire, and that provides the energy that they need to
Oh,
make.
well, the planet would be warmer, so maybe there would be
Yeah.
just a lot more spontaneous combustion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of planet-wise, just to say, you know, we'd be a lot more like Venus, I think, atmospherically, because
me about
Venus, I don't know much about Venus. She's the goddess of love. I guess there's a lot more CO2 in the atmosphere, although they say that because we have oceans, we'd be able to absorb more, so it wouldn't be quite as bad as Venus is, but still very similar in terms of the heat and the carbon dioxide makeup in the atmosphere.
Swimming in bathtub oceans. All
Yeah.
warm
The
Ugh.
bacteria would like it.
Yeah. Or maybe we would have evolved more life underground to avoid that heat.
Yeah.
Or maybe things would have just stayed around those underwater vents, and we'd have whole kingdoms around there.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
So this
yes.
is where my grand conclusion, my grand idea out of this episode is no photosynthesis means mer people.
Mer people.
Yeah. So I think, like you said, life would kind of congregate around these sulfurous vents, and that means that evolution would have, still gone along. The bacteria would have done their thing. They would have, evolved and gotten more complex, and then we would have done the thing. It would have taken longer, but really, that's what we would eat. We would eat these kind of sulfurous bacteria things and like all the life around the sea vents, and so life would have just evolved to stay under the ocean. And who knows? We'd have mer people,
Cool. With
and we would
gills
just
and everything.
we would just colonize under the ocean.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What were those things you could get as kids that were kits, and you added water, and they were like little animal creatures? Somebody knows. Somebody
The ones where they
knows.
expanded?
No, they were like actual little living things.
Planary? The little wormy things?
No.
Because we had to dissect little worms in the 7th grade. That was our intro to like dissection. They had like these big eyeballs.
No.
They kind of look like penises, actually, now that I think of it. Yeah.
All right. Well, never mind. We
Ooh.
can just get rid of
Well,
that.
another thought I had is because, okay, these vents under the ocean are sulfurous, blah, blah, blah. They're hot. Volcanoes are kind of like that, right?
Yeah.
So would life have been able to evolve kind of above ground, but on volcanoes, and say like volcanoes and volcano rims would be the most biodiverse areas on Earth? And we would just have like
to stick our heads
super
in and
heat
breathe,
resilient
and breathe in volcano
colonies
air.
of stuff around volcanoes?
Maybe, but it seems really unstable when they suddenly explode
Yeah.
and then wipe things out, and then you got to start over again.
Yeah.
So I think life would be less stable.
Yes.
Hotter,
Yes.
and not as interesting.
And not as green.
yeah, and not as green.
With all this just made me think about, there's a whole theory about the planet, like one Earth or something, that there's just all these really unique things that had to fall into place to make life on Earth possible. And photosynthesis was a key part of that,
Yeah.
obviously. And it just kind of happened. They just evolved. Crazy.
They just
man.
evolved.
Just one day I'm going to take that sunlight and I'm going to make food with it. What? How does that happen? I don't know.
Yeah, and that's why
Science
it
is
all
weird.
freaks me out when I think
Science
about it
is
too hard.
magic. I don't
How
like
could
it.
we be here if that just didn't happen?
So say we did evolve and we were like mer people, or we were some sort of intelligent species that were able to survive on Earth without photosynthesis. That would mean that colonizing planets like Venus and Mars probably wouldn't be that out of the realm of possibility, because we'd already have adapted to survive in somewhat similar conditions climatically.
We'd probably just need
Yeah.
smarter aliens to come and help us get to other planets.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause our brains probably wouldn't be as good.
Yeah, or maybe we'd just be somehow other way smarter.
Maybe we'd be able to fly.
Yeah, through space. Anyway, if we ever got to the point where we were overpopulated on Earth, it would be quite easy to just say, okay, well, let's just go to Venus and
Yeah.
do it there, because it's already habitat Similar.
Need a vent for rent.
I like it.
Yeah.
Vent rental. Ooh, and there'd be vent wars, different colonies of bacteria around their vents. That would be like their identity.
Yeah.
And we'd have geopolitics just under the ocean.
And those vents might have evolved to be completely different kinds of species.
Oh,
That'd be kind
yeah.
of cool. Could be totally unrelated things that evolve separately, and then when they converge, what happens?
Yeah, well, it'd be very similar to what people did. There were different species of like Homo sapiens, and then of Homo people, and then we killed each other. It'd be the same thing with bacteria.
Cool.
It'd be like the whole planetary history, just on a microscopic scale.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, photosynthesis isn't that important.
Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of what factually would happen if photosynthesis had never evolved.
Foolproof factual assessment right there.
But let's think about in a different, more interesting, perhaps, way. What would happen if we had photosynthesis just as we have had it, and then one day we woke up and it totally stopped?
Oh.
Then what would happen?
Okay. Whoa.
My first thought about this was, we can't breathe.
We would die. Yeah.
Thinking about the order of importance of things.
But how long would it take for all the oxygen to be depleted?
Yeah, so it sounds like that might not be as urgent. Once I did some research, which there's a lot of different theories out there about how long oxygen would last if photosynthesis just stopped. I mostly just went to a discussion board with some researchers at the University of California, Santa Barbara, who were already talking about this.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and they had this very old, closed discussion topic that asked the same thing. And their responses ranged from 100 years to seveal thousand years to it's too hard to tell.
Okay, well, obviously.
Depending on like...
that person was a quitter.
Yeah.
Oh, it's too hard.
Well, yeah.
Imaginationally challenged people.
Some said we'd have to like slaughter all the large animals, and that would help us.
Okay, that's good because I went to like straight to just slaughtering huge swaths of the human population. So I like that other people thought of animals first because that's more sane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But it does seem like there would be mass chaos.
Oh, for sure. And I think people would probably be like capturing oxygen, and there'd be oxygen hoarding and oxygen stash.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think there'd be a mad dash to hoard oxygen in big tanks or whatever.
Like that movie. Did you see that movie on Netflix with Idris Elba? Where like some like crazy like this it's a horrible movie. But like some crazy thing happens to the climate, some crazy disease where like oxygen gets depleted, and so they have to go to like above whatever like miasma this is, and like people have to survive, and then people like evacuate and go live on a spaceship. Oh, it just felt like a cool word. But it's this plot of this movie is very similar, where they have to like hoard oxygen, and then like they can't breathe in certain parts of the world. So yeah, maybe that's what their thinking was.
Yeah,
even though that movie sucked. It was so dumb.
What was it, a Netflix original?
Yeah, it was so
Wait,
bad.
what? Netflix original was bad?
Oh, they're so
Never.
bad. I can't.
Weird. Well, I was wondering if we would like mandate sterilization so that people couldn't have
I mean,
more
come
babies.
on. We're facing an existential crisis already with climate change, and we're not doing shit about it.
And
so I
that's
feel like
the
we'd
other
just be like, oh, well.
Yeah, I think that the time limit, since it's really not that urgent, no politician is going to be like, this is outside of my tenure.
Yeah.
I don't have to. But instead, I think people might hoard oxygen, or maybe there'd be oxygen trading between countries where they like put a cap on oxygen and
whoa,
it's like emissions trading.
Oh my God, no! Here's this. People would suddenly
here's this.
They would get their own. They'd get like a lifetime oxygen limit, and you would hit your oxygen limit, and so you'd have to be killed if you hit your oxygen limit for your life, and they'd monitor it somehow, which means like it'd be disincentive to do like exercise or anything strenuous. Like people would be like forced to become like lazy sloth slugs so that they could live longer.
I think people would get big on meditating and like walking slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, just slowing
Like
things
holding
down.
their breath
Yeah.
for as long as they could.
And then trying to steal people's oxygen from them. Like, if you kill somebody, do you inherit their oxygen?
Oh, wild.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm digging this. There's a
It'd
whole
get
dystopian
freaky.
fantasy series.
It'd get real freaky.
So, but more pressing, I think, than oxygen running out, would it be carbon dioxide levels just like spiking and like a really accelerating kind of climate atmospheric change?
Yeah, I don't know how fast they would go up, but I imagine it'd be pretty fast.
I feel like that would happen before we run out of oxygen.
Yeah, so things would get hot.
Hot.
Real hot.
Hot.
That's hot.
You're so hot right now.
And I was
You're
thinking,
so hot.
there's probably some technology we could use to convert CO2 into oxygen ourselves, but I couldn't really find anything that sounded promising yet, at least. Did
Probably
you?
because the government's keeping it hush hush.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I only found one group of researchers who tried to break up CO2 with UV light in a contained environment. But normally when light breaks up CO2, it makes carbon monoxide and atomic oxygen, which we can't breathe. We only breathe O2.
Okay.
So that didn't really work. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, also just like plant life would die out, right? So what would happen first? Would we run out of oxygen? Doesn't sound like that would happen first. Would carbon dioxide levels just crazy accelerate and just cataclysmic global warming at a much faster rate? Or would plants just die and then we'd run out of food?
Yeah, I actually think food security is the most urgent thing there, because carbon dioxide, like the earth is really big and there's a lot of space for more CO2, and the ocean has a lot of oxygen, and there's a lot of like chemical reactions I think that would happen for a while, even as the photosynthesis stops.
Yeah.
But yeah, first, I think the plants dying would be the most urgent thing. Like all of our food systems collapsed.
Yep.
Every food chain, dirt.
Yeah.
But imagine maybe there would be a huge celebration for like the last fall, where it's not necessarily like fall time, but where everybody around the world is watching all of the leaves turn colors and then die for the last time.
Oh my God. That's
Would you embrace
sad.
it? Would you be
Sure.
sad?
Honestly, maybe we just have like a global end of days party. And it would just be the first time that we'd ever come together as a global planet, as a global planet, as opposed to like a national planet.
Forget all these
Have like
national
an end
planets.
of days feast.
Yeah, that'd be kind of weird. People, I think they might like rush to try to can and preserve as much as they could. So people who have their own farms would probably be a little bit better off.
Yeah.
And
We'd start eating compostable stuff. So this happened to me. I went and visited my dad, and my dad composts, and there were some carrots.
ate the compost.
I didn't, but there were some carrots in the top of the compost bucket, and my dad apparently was like, "Who would throw these away?" Like, ate the carrots that were meant for the compost. All
maybe
this
we
to
just
say,
start
people would be a lot
eating
more conservation minded and eat food that we otherwise wouldn't eat.
Yeah, maybe we would go through what's it called? Where do we put our trash? Landfills.
Yeah.
Maybe people would move to landfills. Maybe that would become prime real estate to dig through rotten trash. And people with the best immune systems would survive.
Oh, gross. Or we'd figure out a way, like Soylent Green style, to just like harness all those deep sea venticle bacteria and crabs.
I was
and
wondering how many anaerobic bacteria are edible. Because I think a lot of anaerobic bacteria feed on the nasty things that you don't want.
Yeah.
Like the kinds that clean up oil spills.
But would
and
we
things
have a
like
choice?
That. Yeah, we might not. I also think that people would try to store away as much dried up plant matter as they could to feed animals.
Poop.
Because eventually the animals wouldn't have food, but they could like have hay bales for years and try to keep it from rotting. And that would be like this big rush to have the hay.
Have the hay. There's been a rush on hay.
Or maybe we'd shift to eating fungi all the time.
Yeah.
Because then there'd be all this.
But what would they eat?
Well, for a while, there's a lot of dead plants and forests to break down.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Mushrooms. We'd all be little hobbits.
Mushrooms for
Mushroom
breakfast,
soup,
lunch,
stuffed
dinner,
mushrooms,
mushroom cake,
mushroom paste, mushroom coffee,
mushroom icing
mushroom
on
tea,
my mushroom cake,
mushroom ice cream,
mushroom toothpaste.
mushroom toothpaste.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't eat your toothpaste. Ugh.
And zooplankton. Maybe we'd eat a lot of, I guess zooplankton need phytoplankton, which need photosynthesis. So never mind.
Yeah, we'd be pretty limited in what we could eat.
We would
probably
die.
try to eat our own hair,
Oh.
eat our dead.
Oh, yeah. Like some Snowpiercer shit.
Who's that?
No, it's that movie where they eat limbs of people. Yeah, it's weird. Or eat babies.
Another great movie recommendation brought to you by Chlorophyll.
Stay tuned for our movie review podcast. Well, so, yeah. Either way you slice it, whether it's pre-days or current days, if we didn't have photosynthesis, life would be grim.
Yeah.
Not a
we'd
lot
be
of good
fucked.
prospects.
Yeah.
So, you know,
yeah,
be
so-
nice to plants.
I wonder how long we could survive with food.
Oh, man.
Maybe
What are the global
maybe you
food
could find
reserves?
100 years of food. I don't know.
Honestly, at that point, if it were me, I'd just like go on full hedonistic and kill myself by overeating or something.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good way to go out.
Yeah.
Maybe we'd evolve
Bacchanalia.
plastic.
Ooh.
There's already a lot of plastic inside
Well, people
of us, I
eat.
bet.
There are those people out there that eat like drywall. You know,
Yeah.
my strange eating addiction. Maybe they'd be the
yeah.
ones that they are the next evolution.
yeah.
They are the advanced
the
human
Darwin
race, and here we
winners.
are making TV shows to make fun of them.
People
when
who eat
really,
chalk and dirt and drywall.
they're the
and-
ones that'll survive the great photosynthesis cataclysm.
Oh, it's like cockroach people just kind of roaming the earth eating. Ew.
Gross.
Not that those people are cockroaches.
Yeah, well. Wow. Ugh. So I feel grateful for trees and plants, and I'm going to go breathe on every leaf that I see.
Yep. Treat your plants with kindness.
Because
Your
sometimes
life hangs in their little hands.
their little leafy fronds. Well, does that wrap up our wonder?
I think it could indeed wrap up our wonder.
Cool. Well done, Algal Lavigne.
Well done, chlorophyll.
Thanks. You want to do the disclaimer on this one?
Quick disclaimer. Just
As
like
if
a
we need it.
brief note.
I know it's hard to believe.
There isn't a lot of actual science, but it's our liberal interpretation of what could happen based on teensy bits of real science
Teensy
and
bits.
our own life experiences.
Vast.
And if it offends you, reach out to us and teach us better.
Yeah, do it better. And
Do it
don't
better.
don't do that quote, oh, it's hard to tell. 'Cause that's some crap.
Yeah.
And we'll leave you today with words from the galaxy's favorite tree, I am Groot. Well said.
Thanks
Gets me
to
every
our-
time.
Thanks to our producer, the former president of Liberia, Ellen Johnson Sirleafless, and the Plain White Trees for providing this week's music.
And thank you for joining us today.
That's all for now.
See you next time. Join us next time on The Wonder Women, where we'll explore wonders like,
What if clouds were sentient beings?
what if the butler from Ask Jeeves was real?
And what if ants were in all of our pants?
Until next time, keep wondering.